Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book-loving, notebook-hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of bookology and leading literate lives. We talk all things books and reading and notebooks and writing, mixed in with mindful practices and creativity to create lives we love. You can expect regular weekly episodes focused on 3 books you need to know about on a bookish theme and how to bring those themes to life in our actual lives too. You can also expect author interviews, notebooking inspiration, and topics to help us grow through what we go through and take inspired action to make our lives better. So grab a notebook and your TBR list and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. Today is the 31st of October, and that means it's time for another episode of Monthly Literate Love. Now, normally this is a bonus episode that appears in the podcast at the end of the month, but it just so happens that the last day of October is on a regularly scheduled podcast day, and so that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to talk about what I've been reading, writing, learning, and loving through the month of October 2023. And the best part is how easy it was to prepare for this episode because of my brand new monthly Literate Love printable. If you're inside my Get Literate Patreon community, you know that every month you now get a brand new monthly Literate Love printable with specially designed sections to jot down what you've been reading, writing, learning, and loving throughout the month. I released the new printable at the start of the month in video form, where I share how I am bringing that printable to life. For this month in October, I filled my paper at the beginning of the month with stickers, with beautiful fall stickers to really bring that blank page to life and represent the theme of the month. The theme of the month for me and from my Get Literate community was cozy. I wanted to just dive into this new fall season where the leaves were changing and the apples and cinnamon and pumpkin flavors were popping up all over the place. I really wanted to lean into some comfort this month. And that's what I did. I got cozy more than usual throughout the month of October, and I'm here to share some of those highlights. If you want to get your hands on this monthly Literate Love printable, all you have to do is go to getliterate.co or click on the link in the show notes, and you can learn more about my Patreon community. There are bonus episodes every week. There are First Chapter Friday episodes every week, and there are live events like book clubs, an upcoming holiday notebook session, and much more. But for today, let's talk about my literate love that I'm sharing for October by starting with what I've been reading. Now, my reading this month was a big mix of things. I was reading for work. I was reading for my children's literature class. I was reading for pleasure. And I was reading for a couple of publishers so that I could help them give reviews to their early releases. One of the books I've read, I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did. I actually was surprised when it arrived in the mail that I agreed to it because it is not my typical book that I read and review, but I am so glad I did. So the first book I want to share with you is completely outside of my reading wheelhouse, and this book is called Blood of Zeus. Blood of Zeus by Meredith Wild and Angel Payne. And I've got to tell you, this book made me rethink my reading preferences. I used to be the kind of reader who did not enjoy mythology or fantasy or explicit romance. But now I'm a new kind of reader because I read this book. It completely challenged everything I thought I enjoyed about the reading experience. I was so taken by this back and forth format of all of these relatable characters, even relatable with a fantasy element, because it was set in the world of academics and it had a familiarity that I knew. And I couldn't stop returning to the book any spare chance I got to see how it would all work out. So Kara is a Hollywood famous member of the Valeri family. Maximus is a larger-than-life literature professor, and the energy between the two of them is palatable. Each of them have their own hangups, each of them have their own fears, and each also have questions about who they are. This book will not only spark your interest in mythology and the underworld, I think, but it will remind you that not everyone is as they seem. We are all fighting our own battles. And talk about a cliffhanger. Oh, this book ended with a cliffhanger, but thankfully for me, there are more books in the series. So that was an unexpected delight of a book, Blood of Zeus by Meredith Wilde and Angel Payne. Now, the second book I want to talk about is one that is definitely more of my reading style, and that book is titled The Last Love Note by Emma Gray. This is a Zibby Books book, and it is everything I love my books to be. Now, the book started off uproariously funny. I mean, it was hilarious, but it took a very serious turn and tugged at the heartstrings on every single page. So it follows Kate, and Kate just lost her husband to early onset Alzheimer's, and she's struggling to find her way with her young son. Navigating between the world of loss and grief and the world of hope and possibility, Kate is very conflicted on what her future holds. But when a business trip turns into a weekend away with her boss, Hugh, who just happens to be gorgeous and kind and all the things, Kate finally processes her grief and she starts to make plans to heal herself. In that weekend on the beach, secrets are revealed, big secrets, feelings are uncovered, and very unexpected plans are made. This book had me at hello with an unexpected grenade, neighbor watching, and a trip off the treadmill. But it kept me reading because of its relatable characters and the truly emotional journey that they took me on, plus sticky notes. If you have an obsession with sticky notes, you are going to fall for the emotional toll they take in this book. So that's The Last Love Note by Emma Gray. Up next, I want to share a nonfiction book that truly changed the way I think and made me rethink the career I have chosen. So I've always known that books and reading make me feel better. It's just something I have done naturally. But now I know why based on science. This book takes a deep dive into the world of a concept called neuroaesthetics. The idea that the arts can biologically and emotionally change us and transform our lives on a whole bunch of levels. So in the book, you'll learn about how the brain works on art, even more importantly. You'll get to explore how to cultivate well-being, restore your mental health, heal your body, and even amplify your learning and flourish in your life too, just by starting with one creative act. The research has shown that one 45-minute creative act a month can add years to your life. You can't unlearn what you read inside these pages, and you won't want to. As soon as you turn that last page, well, actually before, you will start to make small changes that could have a big impact on how you live, like I did. This book truly is making me want to switch gears on my entire life plan and just lean into what I always knew intuitively, but never gave myself time to do. But now that it's being studied scientifically and I can't ignore the rationale that this book has presented, I am all in on trying to live a more creative life and defining what creativity means to me. This book is incredibly powerful. Did I tell you the name? Your Brain on Art, How the Arts Transform Us by Susan Magsamen and Ivy Ross. I've got one more book that I want to share with you, and I'm excited because I'm going to give you a little preview of the book now, and then I'm going to do a more extensive review on my blog, and then happily, the author is coming to chat with me on the podcast because I loved this book. So the book I'm talking about is Time to Write by Emily Winslow. So if you have a dream in your heart to write, in whatever writing means to you, then this book is for you. If you value writing for personal enjoyment, this book's for you. If you love books and reading and just want to develop your understanding of the writing craft, this book is for you too. It's for everybody. Emily Winslow has really given us a gift of rest, of daydreaming, and of course, writing. She's got a very unique philosophy that I loved from the very first page. She's compiled her years of successful novel writing into a single book that is full of inspiring lessons and practical writing skills for others who want to do the same. In the book, you'll learn writing skills, you'll learn storytelling skills, and some technical skills too. But you'll also learn how to get started, how to face the messy middle, and explore different ways to share your work with an audience. I personally loved her ideas about grocery bags and maypoles, wonder and worry. And if you want to know more about what those are, be sure to stay tuned for the podcast because she's coming on to tell us all about them. This book is truly sure to inspire you if you have a little seed of a writing dream inside your heart. So those are the 4 books that I wanted to share with you from my October reading stack. And now let's talk about writing. I've got to be completely honest. I did not do a lot of writing in October. Normally, I do most of my writing in the morning in my morning pages. And because of a couple of different reasons going on in my life, I just wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't. And so instead of forcing myself to do it and feeling bad about it, I just abandoned my morning pages for a little bit. I'm still not sure if that was a good idea or not, but I did do 2 things in my notebook that helped, that made me feel better, and that just made me feel good about the writing I did do in my notebook. The first one is that I did a 1-word journaling page. Now, if you listen to a couple of episodes back, we had Becca Ray Eagle on, and she talked to us about her 1-word journaling project. I love 1-words, themes, as you know, but I don't generally just journal around them. And I wasn't quite sure why until it was made so obvious that that is something that I should do. So I spent some time this month. I opened up a notebook page. I wrote the word cozy at the top of my notebook, and I just made lists. I felt like lists were more approachable for the mental state that I've been in this month. And so I made lists of things that felt cozy, people that felt cozy, places, sounds, foods. You get the idea. I just decided that the best way for me to be productive was to just start making lists. And out of those lists, I did choose a couple of those things to do to make October more cozy. Some of them were really small. I got out the fuzzy socks from the back of the sock drawer and I put them on. I got out my fuzzier, thicker bathrobe for when I get up in the morning. Other things I tried to bake. I'll tell you about that and the things that I loved because this recipe was definitely a hit. I read books that were cozier, cozy mysteries, cozy romances, and I even drank a couple of cups of tea since that just seemed cozier than coffee since I was reading a lot of books that were set across the pond. So if you are struggling to show up to the page, I do recommend that you just try a 1-word method and you just make lists. The pages fill up quite quickly and you end up with a lot of ideas that can make you feel better off of the page too. So that was the first thing that really helped. The second one that I really loved was a prompt from Tara Schuster. Now, Tara is the author of, well, a couple of books, Glow in the Effing Dark and Buy Yourself the Effing Lilies. right? Do you know her now? I subscribe to her Substack newsletter, and she had a journal prompt that just jumped off at me, off of the page, off of the email, I should say. And there was one question at the top, and then there were a lot of questions underneath that could support continued writing. But this one question really just made me stop the email scroll and head to my notebook. And I've been thinking about this question almost every morning since. And I think when I return to my morning pages, at least for a little while, I'm going to start by writing this question at the top and then spending time answering whatever comes up that day. So that question is, what is the most gentle way I can take on today? What is the most gentle way I can take on today? I love that prompt for a few reasons. Number one, my theme of the month was cozy. And what's cozier than taking gentle care of yourself throughout the day? But number two, it just changes your mental framing. Instead of getting up and looking at the to-do list and looking at the schedule and looking at the planner and getting yourself hyped up to go, it's almost like the complete opposite. Like, yes, I have all those things to do. Yes, I have all those worries. Yes, I have all of those things that are piling up. But what's the most gentle way I can take on the day? I can still do those things, but I bet I can find a way to do it with less stress, or a quick little break for a walk in the middle of the day, right? Something. How can I make the day a little bit more gentle and a little bit cozier? So I've only done that prompt once in my notebook, but I have thought about it most days since. And I do think I'm going to give it a try more regularly in my morning pages. So I hope that prompt speaks to some of you too, especially if the last couple of weeks have been hard or challenging in any way. What's the most gentle way I can take on today? Seems to be a prompt that is fitting for a lot of us. So now, what did I learn? Oh my goodness, I have learned a lot this month, and I've got to tell you, I am pretty darn proud of what I have accomplished. If you follow me on social media, then you know I have taken the leap on another passion project, and that is starting a second podcast. Yes, I have started a second podcast called Kid Lit Love. I love this Get Literate podcast. But what I found is the authors that I were talking to and the authors that I really wanted to keep talking to, many of them are children's literature authors. And while I think that has a place on Get Literate, I wanted to do more. I wanted to have a place where I could reach out to my favorite authors, reach out to new and debut novelists, reach out to picture book authors, middle grade, young adult, and just have conversations about the books they're reading. I wanted to do that more. And so I decided to just start a second podcast to do it. And so Kid Lit Love is a celebration of all things children's literature. It's for the adult who is reading to their inner child, and it's for the adult that is trying to connect children in their lives to books. I'm really excited about it, and I cannot tell you how many amazing authors have already agreed to come on. I mean, I have weeks of interviews already lined up, and I can't wait to share. But adding a second podcast came with a lot of learning curves. First, how do I manage having two podcasts? How do I do all the logistics, like reaching out to authors and making sure the dates work in our calendars, sending them Zoom links and sending them outlines and drafts and show notes? So I spent some time thinking about the systems for this work, thinking about workflows, as other people call them, and felt like I've got myself pretty organized to where these interviews and doing this new podcast, it just feels exciting. It just feels fun. Like, pinch me, I get to talk to a new author every week. And I'm pretty proud of how I figured out those systems to really make the most of the second podcast. But I also had to figure out how to make two podcasts on one website. I don't want to have multiple websites. I don't want to have multiple social media accounts for each podcast. And since my podcasts are so related, right? Get Literate, which is all things reading, writing, mindfulness, creativity, and everything in between. And Kid Lit Love, which is all things celebrating children's literature. So both podcasts are going to be hosted on my website, A Lit Life. We've got that common lit factor, right? Get Literate, Kid Lit Love, and A Lit Life. So I had to spend some time learning WordPress, learning Elementor, and figuring out on the back end how to make the website streamlined and easy to find. So if someone went to alitlife.com, they could click on one button and go to Get Literate, or they could click on the other button and go to Kid Lit Love. It seems like that should be simple, but it did take me a little while to figure that out on the back end. So I spent a lot of October doing that. I also did one more thing that I tried to figure out, and I did, and I'm going to reveal it pretty soon, but I am doing something new that involves envelopes, stickers, bookmarks, and bookish fun. And that's all I'm going to say for now. I'm going to say more as I get closer to the big reveal, but I have been learning all about the physical product world and how certain physical things can really bring our reading and writing life to life in a joyful way. And so I have spent some time with some mentors and some courses and some YouTube videos on how to do just that. And I promise I'm being secretive and cagey now, but I will reveal what that project will be soon. Now, last up is what I've been loving. And I have two things that I have loved this month. The first I already alluded to, and that is a cozy dessert. Although I don't really know if you can call this dessert because it is gluten-free, dairy-free, and sugar-free. But let me tell you, it's fantastic. I ended up making a pumpkin, almond, cinnamon, apple granola crisp that is gluten-free, dairy-free, and sugar-free, and was so good. You just layer in the apples and layer in the oat and almond flour mixture with the spices, and it was fantastic. I ate the whole pan, I think, that first day, and I've ended up making it more than once since because, I mean, there's nothing bad in it. What's stopping us from eating half a pan, right? There's no bad ingredients. So that has been really fun. I've loved it. It's cozy, and half of one is sitting in my refrigerator right now. Second, I'm actually going to send a lot of Literate love out to my Kindle Oasis. Now, I prefer books. I want to feel the book in my hand. I want to smell it. I want to turn the pages. I want to put sticky notes and book darts in it. But there have been a couple of books that have been early releases I've been lucky enough to read, and I can't get paper copies of them. I can only get them on my Kindle. And while that usually is my second choice, I have found that that is a fantastic medium for collecting the quotes I love in books. You know that I love quote collecting, and I have a whole notebook dedicated to the quotes that I find in the books that I'm reading. But all I have to do on my Kindle is highlight it, and it saves it. And then I can export them and send a list of my quotes to myself on the computer, print them out, and tuck them into my notebook. I knew I could do this before, but I didn't do it regularly enough to see just how much that can make a reading life happier. So that's what I've been reading, writing, learning, and loving in the month of October. Now, in the bottom of my monthly Literate Love printable, I have 3 things that I want to reflect on each month. The first is lessons learned. The second are the things I want to hold on to. And the third are ideas for next month. So what are the lessons learned? I really have learned 2 important things from my exploration into cozy this month. Number 1, there is always time for cozy. There is always something we can do to make the day feel cozier. Little tiny things matter. That's my second piece. So there's always time for cozy, and the little things make a bigger difference than I thought. Number 2, what do I want to hold on to? I really want to hold on to this feeling of accomplishment that I have of figuring out how to navigate 2 podcasts on one website and to maneuver all of the back end tech features that I had to maneuver. So I am very proud of that. And I'm really happy with the cozy moments that I created for myself throughout the month. Those little tiny things, making my own dessert, getting out those socks, having 5 minutes with a cup of tea, they matter. So my ideas for next month, well, I already told you I didn't write as much this month. And so next month, I want a stronger focus on my writing life, specifically my morning page notebooking, so I can experiment with that one question. What is the most gentle way that I could take on this day? I want to see how that question can help make my days feel better, no matter what they throw at me. So that's what I plan to do. So you can find out more about what my one word for October is. I will be releasing that on November 1st. If you are a Get Literate Patreon member, you know that that means a new word also means a new bibliotherapy book calendar with one book recommendation for every day of the month. But if you're not a member yet, you can head to my social media pages. I am at Affinito on just about all of the platforms, or better yet, come find me on Facebook in my Get Literate community. I post the one word there and give you a sneak peek as to what members can expect throughout the month. And our community continues to grow, and I would love to see you there. So that's it for this month's episode on monthly literate love. I hope this helped inspire your own literate life. And I'd love to know your details too. Comment on the show notes, tag me at social media, send me an email, or click the button to leave a voice note and let me know what you've been reading, writing, learning, and loving through the month of October so that maybe I can borrow it for the month ahead. Thanks for listening to this episode, everyone. I will see you next week. And in the meantime, happy reading and writing. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. Plus, if you want more, you might like to join my Patreon community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, bibliotherapy book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking challenges, live events, giveaways, and much, much more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all of the previous content too. You can learn more at getliterate.co. And one more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish and notebookish community too. Thanks for listening.